Stokes. Hit well. Oh, he's there! Stokes has put Southampton in the lead. A great break there for Southampton. And they're all off that Southampton bench.
Reaching out to this near flank. What a back cross pass! 2-0! And we're now completing the great escape thanks to a man called Marion.
Just a minute to play. Here's Letizia! Who better to say farewell?
Hello everyone, welcome to the latest episode of Total Recall, which sees myself, Will Dorr from saintsarchive.com, joining Ben to chat with yet another ex-Saint. In this episode, we welcome a man who played 169 games for Saints, scoring 19 goals. Born in Darlington, but made in Southampton, it's former midfielder Neil Maddison. Neil, a warm welcome to Total Recall. Thanks so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Looking forward to it, guys. Really am.
Right, heading back to the early days initially, you signed as a trainee with Saints in 1984, fulfilling a dream many of us Saints fans wished for as youngsters. I know I did. How did that come about for you? I
was only 13 at the time, and I was playing for Darlington schoolboys. We had a match up in Darlington against someone, and Southampton had a really good scouting system up here, and it was a guy called Jack Robson who approached me. Dad mentioned me, asked me if I would like to go for trials up in Gateshead, and I said yes, and it started all from there, really. They had a really good scouting system up here. It was very broad, right across the northeast, and obviously Southampton 300 miles away, but the northeast produced some decent players, to be fair.
And obviously back in the 80s, you could have called home, but there was no FaceTime, WhatsApp, etc., or anything like that. Did the club allow you to have regular trips back to see the family?
Oh, yeah. I mean, when it first started, I was only 14. So when I signed originally, it was with the associated schoolboy form. So what I would do, I would train once a week at Gateshead. Just train up there with a few of the lads that were on the books as well as me. And then we was at school. We would come down in the holidays and maybe have 2 weeks down the summer, 1 week down at Easter, and train with the rest of the boys that were down in Southampton. But from 14 to 16, it was about just training up here, and in the school holidays, obviously coming down to Southampton and playing games.
Okay, and obviously being at Darlington and Southampton, it's something like a 575-mile round trip. How did you cope with that, being that far away from home and those round trips? Did you get like the coach, train, or parents come?
No, we used to get the train down. When I signed apprenticeship forms with Southampton, there was myself, Steve Davis, Alan Shearer, Barry Wilson from the northeast, and we used to get the train down and train up all the time. You know, getting to Waterloo, over to King's Cross, and then up to Darlington and the rest of the lads, Durham, Newcastle, and that would be it. But that first 6 months, I would say, was really tough because obviously being away from home, the first time I've been away, it was really, really tough. There was times when I can remember Christmas when me and Shearer had come back up, and I knew it was going to be tough because we had 2 weeks up here, and I got a phone call off Al just to say, listen, I'm not going back. And I just said to him, listen, get on the train, I'll meet you at Darlington, make sure you're on it. And I'm at the train station crying, my mum and dad are crying, and there's Alan on the train. I could see he'd been crying, and we got on, but it was the best decision we made because that's where we started our career at Southampton.
And look, you went on to make your senior debut for Saints at Plough Lane, Neil, against Wimbledon, aged 18, scoring as well. What do you remember about that match, when you were playing and beforehand?
Well, it was a tough introduction because it was a crazy gang. But I think they knew I was pretty mentally tough. I mean, I was tough and I liked to tackle. I didn't shirk anything. And when I got the nod that I was going to play, I can remember I was a little bit nervous. My mum and dad were there as well. And I can remember in the tunnel, and Vinnie Jones was stood next to me, and Jimmy Case, I played alongside Jimmy, and the first thing Vinnie Jones said to me was, you're the new lad, aren't you? And I said, yeah, and he said, well, I'm going to break your legs this afternoon. And that's exactly what he said to me, and I thought, oh, well, then Jimmy just patted on the shoulder and just winked at me and just get on with it, and then obviously I did and scored the first goal, and the lads couldn't catch me because it was something I'll always remember. But yeah, it was a tough introduction, but I quite enjoyed it. Your debut, you always do.
Yeah. And what about Chris Nicholl, Neil? I mean, obviously he was renowned as being a good man manager in his time at Saints. So as an 18-year-old making your debut, I imagine he had some wise words for you as well.
Yeah, got on really well with Chris. I've seen him many a time. I do a bit for Middlesbrough Football Club and I work there, and I've seen Chris every now and then, and he still does well. But he was as tough as anything, Chris. I can remember going into the gym when we were at the Dell, during the week, and he liked the game of head tennis, and he would proper rough you up, and I mean rough you up. The elbows, when you were at the net, would come out, and he just tried to make you tough, because that's what the game was like in them days. The cameras are not there no more, so they weren't there at the time, and you got away with murder. Honestly, you got away with absolute murder, but now you can't do it. But he was brilliant, Chris, really good for me.
Yeah, and look, you go on to play under Nicola Course, Ian Branford, Alan Ball and Dave Merrington during your time at the Dell, so all very different managers. How did you generally get on with them? Because I imagine they would have liked your energy, your commitment, things like that, Neil, all of them.
Yeah, Dave Jones as well, Graham Souness as well. All of them had different traits. Obviously, Dave Merrington was my manager at youth team level, and I got on really well with Dave. I mean, I hold him in high regard. He was, he set me on my way. Not only was a very good coach, but he taught you other things off the pitch as well, just to be respectful, just to try and be a nice person, be kind. And he was brilliant like that, Dave. But yeah, they're all different in some ways. Souness I got on really well with. Souness actually made me captain of the side, which was a massively proud moment for me. Yeah. So, that was good. But Bawley was one of the best managers, if not the best manager I played under. His managing skills were outstanding. I loved him. I absolutely loved him. I thought he was brilliant. Dave Jones, I left to go to Middlesbrough when Dave was manager. Branford, I got on really well with Bran. He was up at Middlesbrough not long ago when Tony Pulis was manager, and he was speaking to Pulis, and I tapped him on the shoulder. I mean, he took some stick when he was down at Southampton. He didn't laugh, but I still got on with Ian Branford as well. So all good managers, and yeah, I think I was 100%. I just worked hard, and they seemed to like that.
And what about the Dell itself for you, Neil? Some of us older fans would totally miss it, but do you miss it as well?
Oh, absolutely. I still come down to Southampton regularly. I've got kids that live down there, and my digs were on Hill Lane. Me and Alan Shearer lived in Hill Lane, and I go and see them. I'm actually godparent of one of their daughter's child, so I see me digs as much as I can when I get down there, and I often go past the Dell, and I actually well up. I have a little tear in my eye, because that's where I started my career. That's where it all started for me. And you guys say to me, do I miss it? Man, honestly, when I see the pictures of it, when people post them, saying sidecars, when you post the pictures of the Dell, and it does well you up a little bit, because it was where it all started for me, and I'll never forget the place, never.
Going by your previous question, now you've answered that, and the passion that comes over in your voice. Obviously, you had some memorable games at the Dell. Which games for you were the ones that really stood out and still remain good memories?
Oh, God, there were so many. I can remember when my first daughter was born, Stacey, and I scored in that week she was born. We beat Spurs 1-0, got a header, and I scored. The Tottenham games were always good. I can remember one game where we got beat off Tottenham 4-1, and it was live on Sky, and I forget which one it was now. One of the fullbacks went up to the camera and sort of went, how many was it? 1, 2, 3, 4. And we all seen it as lads. And we thought, next time we play them, they are in for it. And we actually played them not long after. I forget the guy who had come up with the camera. He was one of the fullbacks, and we all just said, anyone gets a chance, you absolutely nail him. And I think, and we did. We were up for the game. I think we beat Spurs 4-1 that day, and it was a reverse or 4-3. Maybe I'm not quite sure, but we won the game, and I think it was Neil Heaney, the first minute of the game. He played out wide, and he absolutely launched this lad, and that was it. It set us all off. And yeah, the Spurs games were always feisty, and they were always good to play in.
We mentioned earlier, Neil, that you'd scored 19 goals during your time at Saints, which I think surprised both Will and I, actually, when we were doing our prep, because I think we probably thought you'd scored a lot more than that, actually. But if you had to pick one or two out that you always reminisce about, which would they be?
I scored quite a lot with my head. I was decent in the air, so a lot of my goals were in my head. Obviously, the Spurs game when we won 1-0 and I got the winner with my head, Tiz supplied all my goals. I can't remember a season where he didn't supply me. He just, I can remember my home debut against Forest scoring. That was memorable. But Arsenal against David Seaman, scoring against Manu, against Schmeichel, that was always something to remember. But I don't think any stand out. It was the group of lads that we had. We all came through the ranks together, the majority of us, Tiz, Franny, Dodsey, Shearer, Nicky Binge, Jeff Kenner, Tony Williamson. I still speak to the lads now.
Yeah.
We're all good friends, and we were like a family, and people say Southampton is a family club. It is, because for us as lads, it was a family club. We're very close, and we always keep in touch, and we don't speak as often as we should, but we do keep in touch, and I'll never ever forget my time down there. It's, as I said before, it was where my life started really as a footballer, and just so many fond memories of Southampton, and I hold them really close to my heart. I really do.
Yeah, and look, we was talking earlier about your energy commitment, winning tackles, getting the ball back. Assisting was one of your key strengths as well, Neil. It's funny you mentioned Tiz, because we were gonna bring it up, because we always hear Matt going on about his 2 goals in that 2-1 Ian Bramford game, don't we, against Newcastle in '93? And we were lucky to have him on Recall a few weeks ago, and he was talking about that. But I think when we were doing our research, it kind of reminisced, Neil, that actually that 87th minute that he lobbed over Mike Cooper, it wouldn't really happened if it wasn't for your well-placed headed pass, right?
Well, I always say that. I say that to Tiz as well. The assist, the header was perfect, and all you had to do is hit it, really. So I think the header set it all up, definitely. But Tiz was just ridiculously good. If it wasn't for him, we would have been relegated, quite a few seasons. He was the difference. You need them type of players in your side, and even now you need them in your side, but he certainly was a difference. When we were up against it and we needed someone to just get us back into the game, the lads would say, "Come on, Tiz, we need you." And he did. He produced the goods. And I can remember Alan Ball got the best out of Tiz, because Bally absolutely loved him. Tiz got away with murder. But he played his best football under Bally. He was just phenomenal. Honestly, he was ridiculous under Ball. You say to us, lads, get him the ball. I'm not bothered where it is. Get him the ball and he will do the business. And he did. He produced the goods left, right and centre. And without him, without a shadow of a doubt, we would have been relegated.
Yeah. So other than, obviously, Latiz, who's probably the obvious answer at the moment, who did you most enjoy playing with during your time at the Saints?
There's loads of lads. As I said before, we were all good friends, and we still are. The likes of Nicky Binge, I still speak to Nicky. There's lads that were in my youth team that never quite made it that I still speak to now. And there's so many. Franny, what he's done, and Franny has never changed one little bit. Dodsey, still speak to Dodsey every now and then. Tommy Withington works for Bristol Rovers as chief scout, and I see Tommy at games every now and then, around the country. Jim Jolton I speak to every now and then, and on Twitter we fly across messages. But it was a good group of lads that have kept in touch, and it says a lot about the side that we had down there at that time.
So you eventually left Saints in 1997, heading back up to Middlesbrough. After eventually retiring as a professional player, you moved on to coaching, and on a few occasions stepped up to help hometown side Darlington as a caretaker manager. What challenges did that bring, and would you ever consider club management again in the future?
The challenges were enormous. At lower level, it's tough because you've got a budget to work to. I always seem to go in when the manager got sacked. See, I worked through the youth team. I took my coaching badges as I was finishing my career. I was lucky enough. I was 37 when I packed in. The last game for Darlington was Wycombe Wanderers away. Won 1-0, and that was it. And then Dave Hodgson was the manager and said, "Listen, I want you to come on board the coaching team." So I went to get my badges, got my UEFA licence, and football has always been part of my life. Management, I enjoyed immensely, even though it was only in short periods, but I did youth team level, reserve team level, and just learning about the game on another side. When you're a player, you go and train, you go home, and then you get prepared for the games on Tuesday or Saturday. When you're a manager, it's totally different. It's just when you're preparing for a game, you're thinking about systems, you're thinking about who you're going to play, who you're going to start, disappointing players because they're not starting, and have to deal with that. There's so much else to go on, but I absolutely loved it so much, and I've got a good job at Middlesbrough now. I look after the loan signings, and I watch lots of games. I also do the radio for the borough as well, so as Dave Merrington does for Southampton, so I really enjoy that as well. But I think if the chance was ever to appear and it was the right move, I'd seriously think about it, definitely, yeah, because I'm 50-year-old now, and football has been my life for such a long, long time, and I could never see me ever coming out of football.
You stole on our next question then, Neil, because we had about the BBC Tees Radio Middlesbrough commentary. I think for all of those that follow you on Twitter, which I know there's many of us, we quite often see you rocking up to a various championship away ground and that sort of thing. But I imagine doing that and looking after some of the lone players and having that variety, it means that whatever you're doing, I guess, involved in football is giving you different satisfactions almost, yeah?
Oh, yeah. Working on with the lone players, looking at players, and I've seen every game, Middlesbrough game, for the last how many seasons, so many seasons, and you understand each manager, you understand what type of player they want and how they play the game, and you sort of, when I'm doing the radio, I sort of try and get in the head, my co-commentators, and what will you do now if you're getting beat? And you still have your manager's head on. You're still thinking about the game, you're still wanting your team to win, because being at Middlesbrough, when I left Southampton, they were so good to me. I had 4 seasons there, and it's such a good club, and then afterwards as well, looking after me and doing the corporate, and then obviously working at the club again, and obviously doing the radio. It's a massive part of my life now. So, we've had a tough season so far this season, and it's been really difficult. And I work for the club, and I see the players every day, and yet I do the commentary as well. So I have to be fair, and I have to tell it how it is, but it can be difficult sometimes, because when you're being beaten 4-0 at home by Sheffield Wednesday, the phone-in afterwards, it can be pretty vicious and violent. So you've got to be careful what you say, because obviously you work for the club, but I try and be fair, and I try and say it how it is. But it's the second best thing to being a footballer. No one can ever replicate when you're a footballer. It was the best life you can ever imagine. Loved the match day experiences, love going to the big games, love winning at the big stadiums as well, turning Man United over at Old Trafford. They're experiences that you'll never forget. But I'm now on the other side, and I still enjoy it thoroughly. I really do.
Just before Will comes in with his last question, I had to chuckle. And Jamie Pragnell is one of our regular listeners, Neil, and I think we all saw you having a bit of banter with him last week about that video of, is it Nick being interviewed in the car park at the Dow and you walking past with was it a salad, wasn't it? Is that right?
Yeah, it was a salad, man. What's he going on about? A lot of people mention that to me, and I love Nick. Nick was brilliant. When I was a young guy, he was such a nice professional, and but yeah, I always get ribbed a little bit for that. But yeah, I suppose it goes down to history, doesn't it?
Okay, so just to finish it up, Neil, we do have a few questions from some of our members at the Saints Archive.
Come on.
First one isn't actually a question, though, so we're going to kind of put you on the spot a little bit. It's more of a message to you from a lady called Lynn Hoare. What she wants to say is we actually named our daughter Maddison after Neil. So after Lynn had met you, I believe you both had an interview, Neil might remember, and she also says you were a great player.
Oh, that's lovely. I think Maddison's quite a popular name, isn't it? I know quite a lot of people that are called Maddison, but it's lovely that, yeah. Listen, when you get a child named after you, it's something special. So, yeah, really chuffed about that.
Yeah, my wife refused to call our son Lambert when he was born a few years ago, but there we go. But yeah, Maddison works, doesn't it?
Yeah, I could never have got away with naming our daughter anything related to Saints, never in a million years. Okay, so first actual question is from a gentleman called Kev Hewitt. He would like to know, throughout your career, who was the best opposition player you came up against?
Ooh, there's been so many. Roy Keane at Man United, unbelievably good. Tuffins, Vinnie Jones, obviously, when I made my debut. Shearer, Shearer when he went to Blackburn, when I lived with Al for 7 years and knew exactly what he was all about. But, them type of players, although I actually did play against him because at Southampton, I did play centre-half quite a few times in the later time in my career, and sweeper, so I played against Al a few times. But yeah, Roy Keane, I would say, because Roy was just, he was a machine. When he was at Nottingham Forest, he was unbelievably good. I can remember we played Forest away, and I think it was Ian Branford, or one of the managers, had said, Terry Hurlock, he said, Terry, I'm giving you the job to man mark Roy Keane. And I can't tell you what Terry said afterwards. He just went, it was just something, you're joking me, aren't you? Roy was just, he was a proper machine, fit as anything and as tough as anything as well.
George Cadham's asked, was there a knack or a secret behind the amount of goals you seem to score with your head?
I was just good in the air. And I don't know, my timing was good. In training, I practiced heading the ball, and everyone at the club knew I was decent. I mean, that's probably why I played at centre-half quite a few times. I can remember when Graham Souness was manager, I wasn't on the side at the time. I was going to sign for Crystal Palace, but the deal fell through. So I came back to Southampton. Souness said, just get your head down. I've got my head down, was on the bench, played a couple of games. And then what we used to do, we used to play a game on a Friday with the reserves. So the first team would set up. The reserves would play as if they were playing the team that they were going to play on the Saturday. And they were actually playing Middlesbrough. So Souness said to me, go play centre-half as if you're playing for Middlesbrough, because they play with three at the back. So I played sweeper. I played against Eggerloshtenstad and won a lot of headers, you know, decent on the ball. And as soon as come up to me and said, have you played there before? And I said, I'm not really. Anyway, we came in for the game, and Ken Moncow was ill at the time. So he names aside, he said, you're playing sweeper. I played sweeper, beat Middlesbrough 4-0, got man of the match. Souness made me captain, give me a 4-year contract, and that's how it all started, me playing at the back at the time. So, a strange time, but the timing, good in the air, scored quite a lot of goals on the head, so I think he's just got to work on it, and I did in training. We used to always finish with Crossingham finishing at Southampton, and people used to call me Bullet Head and Bacon Neck for some reason, because I used to, because I used to score a lot with my head. So yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to button and ask a question that I had, Neil. Look, we know you love football. We know you're still very much involved in it. I guess I just wondered, because as Saints fans, we've kind of gone through a bit of a roller coaster over the last 3-4 years, trying to understand what the club wants to do. You know, we seem to have a pretty good manager now, but again, you know, there's still issues across the squad and the, you know, some of the money that we spent having sold Van Dijk. I guess I just wondered what you made of the current Saints team and the manager, and sort of where you think they can go over the next couple of years, really.
Listen, I think they had a dodgy spell at one time, didn't it? But then all of a sudden they just kick into gear, and they've done really well. I would stick with him. I would stick with the manager. I think you chop and change too much, and I think when he gets it right, he gets it right. And you're always in the spotlight when you're manager. You know, Jonathan Woodgate at this moment in time, Middlesbrough manager, and it's been tough for him because he hasn't had the money that other managers have had over the years, and he's chopped and changed, trying to change systems, and it hasn't gone his way at times. But he had a really good spell at Christmas where it went, and then we dipped off again. I think with Southampton, stick with him, get behind the players. Obviously, investment and trying to get them right players on board are absolutely massive to a manager. And if one player can change the whole dynamics of a team, you know, it certainly can. And that one player, Van Dijk, obviously was a big miss for Southampton when they sold him to Liverpool. And it just shows how well he's done at Liverpool. He's been brilliant. But no, it's I would certainly stick with the manager. But investment is massive, and you have to try recruitment. Recruitment is absolutely huge now. You've got to try and get the right players on board that fit into your style of play.
After your comments earlier, Neil, it sounds like you could probably still do your job for us at centre-back, so you never know. There might be a move this summer. But,
the back wouldn't hold up with the back's on.
Okay, and finally, we've got a question from Denise at Bridlegate, but she has asked the following, and albeit I'm a little nervous about where this might go. Denise says, ask Neil about his really funny disco bunny joke.
You've lost me.
It must have meant something. It must have meant something to Denise all them years ago.
Well, you know what? As I said before, as a group of lads, we were pretty close, and dear me, we got away with murder. I mean, if it was social media on when we were pros, we'd be absolutely locked up. But we got away with it as a group of lads on a Saturday. That was the norm. You'd go out after a game, have a few beers, as most players did in that time, and we used to go down the pier. Can you remember the pier down at Southampton?
Yeah.
That was a big place for us players, and we used to go down the pier. New York, the nightclub. Yeah, I remember that place. We had a few stints in there after a game, but no, the disco bunny, I'm lost with that one, but
I think we're probably safe there, actually.
Yeah.
You'll have to get back in touch with that.
We will do.
There you go. But look, Neil, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on this Total Recall with Will and myself. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us, for obviously being a Saint and keeping us engaged as you do with all of us on Twitter these days.
Yeah, listen, I enjoyed my time down at Southampton. Love coming back down there as well, and I wish the club all the success in the world. They're a fantastic club. It's not the Dell no more. I know it's St Mary's, but in my time, I'll always remember Southampton being at the Dell and playing them games at the Dell. Fantastic place and absolutely massive place in my heart.
Brilliant. Well, that's been Total Recall with former Southampton midfielder Neil Maddison.